since we were out here before, marking off all our lines and whatnot, we were able to sell our house, the extra property we had in town, and slight change of plans because we actually got $7,000 for the property. I was only expecting $3,000. So we've got a little more money to play with. I'll do a little better footing and whatnot than I was going to do. Depending on where you live, it could be very easy or very difficult to find an individual to dig and pour your footings. Around here it's not too hard because basically around here everybody does everything themselves. So there's always a guy around that'll do this or do that, and you don't have to hire a construction company. So the backhoe guy I contacted is just an individual. I actually went to school with him, and he's going to dig my footings, and it's going to have a few steps in it. He's going to dig and help me pour them for about $1,500 plus the cost of the concrete and rebar, and then I'll do the concrete block myself. So I'm expecting the footings to cost about $3,000. The foundation, the whole foundation, $3,000, and then I'll start building up from there. As you can see, I've started to cut a few trees. Cut this big mamma jamma down. That's a 28-inch white oak, which is what I will be building the house out of, white oak. So I could probably get a couple of logs out of this one. The bottom part's pretty straight. Some of the limbs are even big enough to cut some lumber out of if they're not dead. I bought this saw right here on Craigslist from a guy that rebuilds engines. He rebuilt this engine a little while ago. It's probably had maybe 8 or 10 hours of use on it. It's got a big bore kit and a dual port exhaust, and it screams. It's an MS-660, which, not the Magnum, just the MS-660. Stock, it comes, I think, with 90 point something or other cc. So that's a pretty big saw. With the big bore kit and the dual port exhaust, you might be able to add two to it or something like that. You know, maybe 92 cc. Which you need something big like that to mill lumber with a chainsaw mill. I have ordered my mill. It'll be here next week sometime. It was $139 plus $10 shipping on Baileys.com. I think it's Baileys.com. You can just Google log assault timber jig big mill, and so it's pretty affordable. I got this 30-inch bar, which should be plenty for, cutting what I need to cut. What you want to do is you want to use a specific ripping chain. Okay, you don't just want to slap a chainsaw chain on it and just go to town, because it'll take forever. You'll never get anywhere. You get frustrated and throw it down. A ripping chain should be skip tooth, a full skip. There should be a tooth in between these teeth, but there's not. There's one gone. So it just skips a tooth. And that makes for a more aggressive cut for these bigger saws, where they don't have to work quite so hard going through every single tooth. They skip a tooth. And it should be chisel cut and ground to 10 degrees. And that's what you should sharpen it at, 10 degrees. So it's a full skip, chisel cut, 10 degree sharpened chain. And you can get them from Oregon chains or whatever it's called. And they're like $70 or something like that. I got this one at the local steel dealer and he ground it to 10 degrees. He actually made this chain. He took it in the back and took a length of chain and put a master link in it or whatever, and he made one. Ground it to 10 degrees. It was already chisel cut. And it cost me $23 versus $70. The Oregon chain might be a little bit better quality. I really don't know. But, you know, $23 versus $70. I bought 2 of these chains. So, you know, $46 for 2 chains. You know, the Oregon one might be a little better quality, but it's not good enough to equal 3 of another chain. There's no way. Unless it's like got some kind of diamond tip carbide material or something. I don't know, but you can buy 3 of these for the price of 1 Oregon chain. Now, I don't know if that price is good everywhere, but here at my local steel dealer, which is Ray's Small Engine in Lebanon, Missouri, I'll just throw that out there because they've been real good to me. I went in there and bought $300 worth of accessories, including the bar and chain and, you know, a cant hook, some hearing protection, sharpening kit, you know, extra spark plug, 2 chains, things like that. So he gave me this hat for free, but, you know, it might not be much, but it's something you're not going to get online. You're not going to get it, you know, at larger places probably, but we live in a fairly small town, and the individual small business owner appreciates your business. You know, you go to a lumber yard that's been in your town for 85 years, they're going to appreciate you a little better than when you go into Lowe's. Okay? That's just the way it is, you know. They're local. The money you give them goes back into the community for the most part. There's just no better way than to do business locally. Yeah, you can get stuff a lot cheaper on the internet, and I do that sometimes if it's a drastic difference. But if it's $2 or $3, you know, why not do it locally and build a relationship with your local community and business owners? And, you know, you never know, they might throw you a gratuity once in a while, you know, a free hat or calendar or something. It's not much, but it lets you know that they appreciate your business. And that's the way I like to do business. Today what we have to do is clear this whole tree out. I don't have any help, and it's not really the best idea to go down into the woods by yourself and run a saw that's the equivalent to a small dirt bike engine. But you have to do what you have to do, so I couldn't get the wife and kids up out of bed this morning, so I just gotta get at it, get this stuff done. He's supposed to come and pour the footings and foundation Tuesday or Wednesday. This is Saturday, so I need to get this done. And the brush burned up and whatnot, and I need to brush hog around. But, so the main difference is the plan has changed a little bit in the sense of we've got a little bit more money to play around with the $7,000 from the house, and then, you know, 6 months from now when we get our income tax return, you know, that's another $3,000. So I've got about $10,000 to build this house, and seeing as how all the lumber is going to be free thanks to this dude right here, I don't see any reason why 10 grand shouldn't build a house. And it's going to be 1,800 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 1 full bathroom, 1 utility room with a toilet and sink. So basically 4 bedroom, 2 bathroom, living room, dining room, kitchen, a small office. I mean, that's not anything small. Just about anybody, unless you got 12 kids, could make 1,800 square feet work for you. Go have a contractor bid what he would charge to build an entire 1,800 square foot house, and you're probably looking at around here maybe $120,000 probably. Now that is absolutely ridiculous to me. You know, put in a little bit of work yourself. You know, I don't know where everybody lives. Obviously, some areas you couldn't just go out into the woods and do this. And obviously, not everyone has, you know, parents or in-laws that own 1,500 acres in the middle of southern Missouri that you could just go onto and have all the lumber you want, or timber. I mean, you know. But even if you had to buy the material, you can go to a local sawmill, okay, and it doesn't matter where you live. Usually, from my experience, there is a sawmill within 100 miles of everybody. There's sawmills everywhere. People just don't know about them. All you do is you go down to the sawmill and you put in your order for however many board feet you need, 15 or 20,000 board feet or whatever. And if you go and buy rough cut lumber from a sawmill, it's about 1/3 to 1/5 of the price of dimensional lumber, say if you go to Lowe's. 1/5 of the cost. Okay, that's like, what, 60 cents for a 2x4 that's 8 foot long or something like that. And you're getting more wood. You go get a 2x4 from Lowe's and it's only 1.5 inches by 3.5 inches because it's been planed down. Go to a sawmill and get a 2x4 and measure it. It's 2 inches by 4 inches. You know, you're getting more wood. That 2x4 can support more weight than one you'll get at Lowe's. It just can. You need to inspect them a little bit and make sure there's not a bunch of structural issues with like knots and cracks and stuff like that, which you'll get some of, but I mean, you get knots and cracks and stuff at Lowe's too, so that's just going to happen everywhere. But for 1/5 to 1/3 of the cost, I mean, you're knocking off thousands and thousands of dollars off the cost of building a home right there. And you're not having to use, you know, laminated headers and all this, you know, structural beams and all this crap. You know, go to the sawmill and tell them you need a beam 10 inches wide and 12 inches thick by 15 feet long or whatever. They'll cut it for you. You know, it might weigh 600 pounds, but they'll cut it for you, and it's not going to cost probably any. It might cost the same as an engineered beam or whatever, but I mean, what would you rather have? A bunch of plywood glued together around, you know, in between 2x6s or whatever, or a solid piece of oak that's going to last a couple hundred years? I mean, it's up to you, I guess. I don't know. This just seems like a way easier and better way to do it to me. You know, I don't like to just hand out money for nonsense. You know, it's nonsense to me to go to Lowe's and get, you know, 3 2x4s. I could saw 3 2x4s once you get the log cut into a cant, which I'll go over all that stuff when we start milling lumber. But once you get it cut down into a cant, which pretty much you just saw the bark edges off and make a square block of wood, you start ripping through that stuff, making lumber, and, you know, with a saw this big and a good chain, the right chain, you're zipping through those suckers in no time, you know. It might cost me, what, 25 cents worth of gas to cut, I don't know, 6 2x4s or something like that, if that, I don't know. This thing uses quite a bit of gas, but, you know, gas is something you can get a little bit at a time when you have a little extra money, so it's not quite a big hit all at once. You know, 2 gallons of gas would last all day, probably. And that brings me to a point I wanted to touch on earlier about the size of the saw. A lot of these guys on YouTube that are using these chainsaw mills are trying to use like MS 441s and even smaller saws than that. You know, it's possible you could do it, but you're putting a lot of wear and tear on that little saw. You know, to most people a 60cc saw is not that small, but when you're doing stuff like this, it's tiny. You know, it's just not big enough. This thing right here will rip through anything I touch the bar to, and it'll do it quick. You know, if you want to spend half the day trying to cut 1 2x6, if that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. I mean, if you can't afford a saw like this, which I got this one on Craigslist from the guy, and I gave him $750 for it. They're $1,200 new. So not everybody can do that, obviously. And even, I don't have a lot of money. I bought this saw because I'm going to use it to mill lumber the most. Okay? I'm also going to use it to cut up firewood and stuff. I have to. I can't afford to go and buy a smaller saw just for one specific thing, a medium saw for another thing, and then a larger saw for what I need, To me, it made more sense to get the right tool for what I'm going to use it for the most, which is milling lumber. So if you want to mill lumber, you really ought to look into getting a 90cc or better saw. It just makes the experience a lot more enjoyable. We'll get into all that a little more once we start milling lumber. But for now, I guess I'm just going to start her up and start cutting up some of this brush.